From the Chicago Sun-Times newsroom, I'm Natash Korecki, and this is Off Message, our weekly political talk show. Joining me this week, we have our City Hall Bureau Chief, Fran Spielman, Kristen Crowell, the Executive Director of United Working Families, and we have our columnist, Mark Brown. This week we're going to talk a little bit about unions and how much they will factor into this next mayoral race. Fran, can you give us a quick 30-second history on what's been some of Rahm's biggest obstacles with the unions in Chicago?
Well, he had practically none when he ran. And then he had an early confrontation with the unions where he tried to get them to agree to concessions in exchange for getting rid of the unpaid furlough days. They said no. And then he went down to Springfield and pushed a pension plan that he hadn't discussed with them. So that got things off to a rocky start. Since then, however, he has really tried to make amends with a lot of these unions. He's cut deals with almost every union, including AFSCME and the firefighters who were opposed to him. The only union still out there is police, and they're getting close. And so he's made inroads to the unions, and he will have a lot more union support than we thought.
So you think that police and fire will get behind him?
No, I think possibly they will be neutral. I think that's the best that Karen Lewis can hope for. I don't think they're going to line up against the mayor. They need him. And so the unions that might line up with her would be possibly AFSCME, obviously the teachers union locally, statewide, and nationally. One or two divisions of SEIU, but not all, because some of them are with him as well. So he's going to have considerable support for a guy who is totally had the unions completely lined up against him.
So, Kristen, considerable support from unions. What do you say to that?
Well, I would say that our coalition, United Working Families, is a coalition of both labor and community allies that are united for the first time in a historic way to mobilize our collective membership. Like many races, we expect unions to fall on both sides of this. That's not a surprise. But our focus with our public sector unions that have come to the table are really to do the deep organizing work that we believe will ultimately be what this comes down to.
Well, what do you mean by deep organizing work?
So it's boots on the ground. I mean, I don't think it's a secret that Rahm Emanuel has a war chest, and there's a lot of money lining up for him. I expect that there will be money on our side of this as well, but really it's about the grassroots support at the ground level, and we've seen both CTU and SEIU Healthcare, core anchors of our organization, that do this year-round and are very successful at mobilizing membership.
So how likely do you think it is that you will get behind Karen Lewis if she is to get in the race?
Well, we are working through our own endorsement process of what that would look like, but we're very excited and hopeful that Karen Lewis does get in this race, because we think it's really critical that we have this dialogue at the city, that there is two cities right now, two Chicagos, and we want somebody to go and fight for our neighborhoods and our folks. And so we're hopeful that she gets in, and I would expect that we'd be enthusiastic.
So this whole two Chicagos theme, and it's played out very well in some other cities, including New York. Mark Brown, how do you think that Rahm Emanuel could defend against a two Chicago theme?
Whoa! He's been in that mode from the start of trying to say that he's working in the neighborhoods, and he's certainly in these last few weeks he sure has become very enthusiastic for the Jackie Robinson West Little League team.
Well, so it sort of seems like there's something coming out of his camp. This is not two Chicagos. I am not Mayor 1%. I am. So you're smiling. So what do you say to that?
Well, I think it's typical of what we see in every election cycle 6 months before, that whoever the candidate is, especially incumbents, try to redefine their record. All the polling that we continue to see shows a lack of support among the voters for the mayor. And so if I'm in his shoes, I absolutely have to rehabilitate my image. Our folks would say too late, too little.
Too little, too late.
Yeah.
The problem that he has is people don't like him. And that is a
well,
real
that's a pretty big problem. Yeah.
The style is not appealing to people. They think he's just passing through. They think everything is about him. They don't think he's about the neighborhoods or about the little guy. And so when he tries to reinforce a record, the likability thing is going to really stand in his way.
Well, I know what you would say about the closing of 50 schools and how that's marred Rahm. How much of that do you think is going to come back to bite him in February?
Oh, it's huge.
It's humongous, because it's stuck in the craw of those parents. And then right after that, you announce Obama Prep, $60 million in TIF money, and then Peyton expansion, both on the north side. I mean, there was a lack of sensitivity to the juxtaposition of the tumult of closing the schools and then, oh, let's open the money. Do you have money or you don't have money? I know they're from different pots. The people don't see it.
I would also say that the organizing that happened during the strike leading up with the neighborhoods, with the parents, is a big foundation of what exists out in the neighborhood that will be put into use electorally in the spring. Karen said it on Monday night that Rahm has been one of the best organizers for labor members and for the community to galvanize around something that we desperately oppose, and we're going to continue to work that.
So what was the vibe with Karen
On Monday night?
The people of Chicago know who he is.
It was a very adoring crowd. It was mostly teachers union people, but they were also, I believe, were some SEIU and some cops and firemen from the neighborhood. You know, in the 19th ward, so it was white and black. It was, and you know, it was a very adoring crowd. She sure seemed like somebody that was running to me.
We ought to look at a financial transaction tax.
Can't you get beyond the you are just one issue, you're, you know, the Chicago Teachers Union, that's who you are. Can she get beyond that?
Well,
Fran?
look at what she did with the hiring preference at CPS. She's playing to the firefighters to try to expand her base. The mayor is promoting the hiring preference that the firefighters union doesn't want on the firefighters entrance exam because he's trying to shore up his black support and get those sagging numbers up. So both of them, for political reasons, are taking opposite views of what anyone would expect.
Well, let's talk money. Right. How much money will pour in? Will she be able to raise money?
I think Karen will likely never have as much money as Rahm Emanuel, and we wouldn't expect that. But I do think there will be enthusiasm. I do think she will have opportunities to raise money, but I don't think that that's something that's a barrier at all.
She doesn't need huge amounts. She doesn't need to match him. Because the referendum is about him. And if people have decided they don't like him, then she can tap into that.
So who does?
When people are paying attention in a race, it just, it helps neutralize what you can do with the commercials. And Chicagoans all feel like they know the issues, they live the issues. So, I mean, a race that's like this is going to would excite them, and they'd be paying attention. And, you know, if she was getting hit with negative commercials, she could hold press conferences and everybody would see what she had to say about it.
The problem is he's got to look in the camera and say, I know you don't like me. I know you disagree with the way I've done things, but I've taken on the tough issues. Will he say mea culpa? Will he say, I understand you don't like my style, but that's not the point?
When will he do that? I mean, I keep thinking he'll do it now, but why wait? I mean, humility is what the guy needs to show.
But he doesn't have humility. That's the problem. He doesn't know how to eat humble pie.
Sorry, Rahm.
He needs to eat an entire humble pie.
For the record, we did invite someone from the Rahm campaign, and we reached out to other union groups that have supported Rahm, and they all declined our offer. So let's talk the black vote very quickly. Is it a given that he's going to lose the black vote? Can Rahm?
I mean, I just think what the polling is showing consistently from various sources is he's got a massive problem. And I don't think there is much, as you said, that he can do to rehabilitate that in this short of a time frame.
Don't you think President Obama is going to come in here big for him at some point? That's going to be muted, the effect of that, but I still believe that card is going to be played, and then, boy, that'll...
I'd love to play devil's advocate on that.
All right.
I just don't see what the president gains by coming into the situation with a wildly unpopular mayor of a city that he loves, where he's still revered. I don't know what he gains.
Loyalty to a friend. I mean, you know, loyal, and if he believes in him, I don't know that we've seen anything to indicate that he doesn't believe in him.
So can we give him any credit on the show at all? Doesn't he have something he can point to?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. He has a record where he's taken on a lot of the issues that were left in his lap by Daley. And in terms of Shackman, in terms of trying to tackle the pension problem, in terms of city finances, although none are resolved, but he has the grid system. He has done many things. The problem is the way he's done it.
Is it just the way he does things?
I would say from our perspective, no, there is a record. It has not brought economic prosperity to all of our neighborhoods. And where we're seeing prosperity is not where the majority of the residents live and where folks really desperately need those jobs, better housing, safe neighborhoods. I mean, I would argue that there is not a broad-based record that he can run on and be proud of in all 50 wards.
Okay, well, that was a great discussion. Let's turn to quotes of the week. Why don't we start with you, Fran?
Rahm's not a Chicago guy. He'll never be a Chicago guy. He's not a street guy. He's trying to be, but he is not. He's a suburbanite. Ed Kelly, 90 years old, former Park District Superintendent, talking about why it is that the voters don't connect with Rahm Emanuel.
It was a fascinating interview.
Well, I thought since we were talking a little bit about labor, I would quote Bruce Rauner, "Not every job should be in America." And as we're talking about our economy and what we need to do to grow Chicago jobs, I just thought that was quite a statement to make.
Go ahead, Mark.
Well, I was out at that Karen Lewis event. She at one point said, "I'm not like Rahm Emanuel. Rahm Emanuel thinks Chicagoans aren't very bright." For Karen, this was kind of toned down.
I'm going to follow up on your Bruce Rauner quote. There was more to the quote. No, not every job should be in America. What we need is companies thriving and investing and growing, and especially growing in the United States, just for completeness purposes. Thank you very much for joining me, wonderful panel this week, and thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.